Sup, everybody? Just like that, bam, my face. So, hi, I'm Taco from Something to Talk About. This is my first scripted show I'm doing, so this isn't live. It's something I wrote, something I'm really passionate about. But here's the thing. I didn't want to just like do a scripted show, right? So I still want a free-flowing feel. So I've decided, and also I don't like editing, so decided I'm just going to record me half doing my script, half just bull crapping, right? And it's going to have the feel that I like, the free flow feel, but also I'm not very smart. So I wrote down the few smart moments I had, and I'm going to then look at my script to make sure I don't forget the dumb moments. So what this is every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender reviewed. 61 episodes. Okay? And then at the end, I'm going to do a top 10. I already have it. Everything. I know what I'm doing. So I originally wrote this as a tier list, but I don't like it as a tier list. I'm not going to do it as tier list. I still have like what I would have put them in. But what I now have is I'm going to do my little review, and then I'm going to give you 1 through 10. So I know what you're thinking. There is no episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender that's 1. You're right. But I'm going to do some with 1. So what they are is they're compared to themselves, right? So I do have 1s in here. I do have 2s in here. But that's because there are 2 for Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? If we took majority of any other show and put it into this pool, like inflation, all of these would jump up between like 7 to 10, right? Like there isn't really a bad Avatar: The Last Airbender. We'll get to them. There's a couple. But what I'm saying is just because I'm giving something a low score doesn't mean I dislike it. It means that compared to the best of the best, it is lower. You know what I'm saying? So I might give one of your favorite episodes a 10 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. And that doesn't mean I dislike it. It means that it's above 5. I liked it. If it was in a tier list, it would probably still be like top B, and I probably will still like it. So yeah, I'm just letting you guys know. And also, so this isn't a definitive, this is my reviews and me giving the score. They're gonna be different from yours. Okay. Like that's fine. I want you to tell me what your favorite episodes are. This isn't an argument. Okay. If you say, hey, Great Divide should be your number 1, I'm going to say weird, but cool. I'm glad you loved that episode. This is about celebration. And I'm not a negative guy in my own life, but when I'm doing videos like this, I'm never going to do negative videos. I'm never going to do the top 10 worst. No, man. It's about celebrating my favorite franchises, and Avatar, Last Airbender, Korra are my favorite franchises. Okay, or one of my favorite. They're some of my favorite franchises, and it's about celebration. And you're going to hear a little bit of negative. But, you can't be perfect all the time. So I just wanted to get all that out of the way, right? Don't freak out if I'm giving something low out of 10. I'm just rating all of them for themselves. I do have a 1 out of 10 in here, and I have a couple 10 out of 10s. Okay. And yeah, I'm going to try to make this off the cuff. I hope you guys find some of the reviews interesting and some of the insight I came up with. And yeah, Maybe I made the wrong decision with this rambling thing. We're 4 minutes in and you're already like, dude, get to the first episode. Let's get to the first episode. Episode 1, The Boy in the Iceberg. Oh my God. Humble beginnings for sure. It starts off like it keeps a lot of its plot cards to its chest. And that's something I really like about this episode and this series is there's so much that this show has going for it, and instead of dumping all the lore out at once, it's going to give you just a small amount of lore, and then it's going to move slow. Okay, it does a lot of its reveals like through the show don't tell method, and also does a good job introducing its main characters and their personalities. So overall, this episode isn't amazing, but it's good. It's a solid start. It's gonna hook most people, and it hooked me. So I am gonna say it would probably sit in the B tier, and I'm say it's a 6 out of 10. All right. See, that wasn't too bad. You guys got through it, right? You're still surviving. And yeah, it's exactly what I said. So this episode, it's not, Walter White talking to the camera. Oh, they're going to come get me. I'm sitting in the desert with no pants on. No, it's Katara and Sokka just hanging out on a canoe, fishing. You get introductions to waterbending, and then you see the boy in the iceberg. I like that they start off slow, and it's awesome. All right. I'm not seeing my slide for number 2. Holy crap. Look, the second one in, and I don't even have my slide for number 2. This is hilarious. This is why you do editing. All right. But I got this, man. Don't worry about it. I got this. I just have to click a couple things and get to it. So all right. Episode 2. We got the Avatar Returns. So it continues to build from the last episode. It almost feels like it's still the same episode. Like this feels a lot like Boy in the Iceberg episode 2 or part 2. This episode also shows our first glance at the amazing bending fights because we get that little bit of Aang versus Zuko in the ship, like when he's airbending against them, and it's showing how just because he can't shoot fire, his airbending helps him with like invasion and things like this. And yeah, it gives us our first glimpse at that amazing bending fights that we're going to get later on. And most importantly, we meet my favorite character in this episode, and that is Momo. And that's what's important is getting me that lemur monkey. All right, I really hope we're not missing any other slides. This is hilarious. See, any self-respecting person would be like, we can't keep it. Let's record again. Yeah, whatever. Boom! Episode 3. Oh, I didn't even tell you guys where you're at. Okay, so with Avatar Returns, I would say it falls a little bit, but there's still a lot to love. So again, it would probably be like a lower B tier if I was doing tiers. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. All right. And trust me, you guys are already they're better than that. They are. They're great. But again, I'm ranking it with the rest of the show. And this show gets good. Episode 3, Southern Air Temple. Okay, we got a lot of backstory. Seeing Aang's life, him discovering the brutal death of everyone he knew, which is just so heartbreaking, and it forces him into a rage-induced avatar state. So this is the first time we see the avatar state. We also learn about the avatar life cycle, all that information about the avatar life cycle. And the B plot gives us an introduction of Big Bad, Season 1 Big Bad, Commander Zhao. He's only commander now. And the Agni Kai. I really love how this show slowly builds. And that's what I've been talking about is it doesn't just jump right into that. It really slowly builds and gives us a little nugget of the lore every episode. And most importantly, we meet fan favorite Momo. Momo's this episode. What was I thinking? We got our first taste of the Avatar state last episode. This is a disaster. Moving on. Let it be a disaster. I don't care. It's just like the first episode. I love this episode, so 6 out of 10. It would, again, be like a high B tier. Yeah. All right. And now, episode 4, we have the Warriors of Kyoshi. The first 3 episodes totally feel like a mini movie. Like they should be like Boy in the Iceberg, part 1, part 2, part 3. This is kind of our first, like, moving out of that more introduction. Like this is like level 1 after the tutorial level, of like any video game. So how well does this show continue? Like it didn't miss a beat. So this episode tackles Sokka's ignorant views on ladies. So that's a big part of this episode. This is pretty much like Sokka's like tackling his sexism. Yeah, so we introduce Suki, and her and Sokka do their like flirt fighting and planting the seeds of probably one of the best couples on the show. It also gives us more Avatar background with Kyoshi. and the story of Aang. Story of Avatar going through. Oh yeah, so this gives us the Avatar title going to Aang's head and him being a jerk. So that's a big part of this is on Kyoshi Island, him being like a total jerk because everyone's like, "Oh, you're the Avatar," and he's like, "Yeah, what's up?" And yeah, there's a lot of little fun stuff like the Unagi and Aang's marble spinning, and oh yeah, most importantly, we get the foaming mouth guy, right? Everybody's favorite. I love the foaming mouth guy. And yeah, this is such a solid episode. And it's probably one of the first like kind of fillery, but there isn't really a lot of filler on their show. And I'm going to call things filler. But even the filler episodes, you get lore, right? You get Kyoshi, you get all this stuff. Yeah. 5.5 out of 10. Again, this would be like a middle B tier. This is good stuff. And again, a 5.5 isn't a low rating. It's still better than, it's still good, you know, and I love it. And even the low ones, I'm going to stop explaining the rating. I hope you guys are getting it. If I'm rating it low, it's in comparison to how the heights that this show gets, less of it being bad. All right, here we go. Episode 5. I'm wearing my Bossing Say Cabbages shirt because this is King of Amashu, the introduction to my cabbages. You get to meet the cabbage merchant, one of my favorite side characters. I'll get to who my favorite side character is like way later, but yeah, I love the cabbage merchant. So it's also the first appearance of Boomy. So we meet King Boomy in this episode. I love this episode. It's the first real earthbending master we meet, and it gives us an example of how how earthbenders use strength and are more built like brick houses. You know, it's very muscle intensive. It's not like dancy like earthbending or passionate like firebending. It's, you know, a lot of stomping and punching, and it's very muscle focused. It's very physical, and it sets up our expectations to be subverted later when we meet Toph. So Boomy is super huge, and you kind of get this you get this idea that earthbenders are supposed to be like I'm so weak. It's a joke when I do this. But then so you think, oh, an earthbending master is going to be a really huge dude. Even like the old King Boomy is like a huge dude. And that's so great later on when we meet Toph, and she's literally a little girl who's blind, like the opposite of what you think of when you think of like strength. It's so amazing. So Boomy's challenges are a lot of fun. His humor is perfect. He's perfect dad humor. It hits me just right because I love dad humor because I'm a dad. Though I love this episode, it has some things that don't make sense, like needlessly elaborate mailing system. Like it's a city, not an Amazon warehouse. Like it's like, what are they constantly sending each other mail? Like what's going on with the weird mailing system? But if you overlook that, it's a very solid episode. I would say would sit somewhere up in the A tier, and I'd say a 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, I think that's the highest rated episode yet. And guess what? It deserves that. I really love King of Amashu. So we're moving on to kind of a more heavier episode. So I'm going to warn everybody right now. I hope this is cool. But this episode tackles, for a Nickelodeon TV show, this episode tackles a lot of themes, a lot of heavy themes. And this is one of the first episodes that does that. And if you don't want to hear kind of more heavier stuff, sorry. Like, here we go right now. It's going to be the first episode where we kind of really get into that. But yeah, I'm just giving you a warning. I'm gonna talk about some more heavier themes. And so with Imprisoned. So episode 6, Imprisoned. This episode feels more like filler than anything up to this point, but it's definitely not a bad episode. Haru hiding his bending gives me powerful vibes of like Jewish Germans hiding their religion during like the 30s Germany, you know, like Nazi Germany, showing how brutal and oppressive the Fire Nation is. And it's very powerful for a kid's show. And it also tackles the idea of giving us like literally POW camps fighting back. And in its tackling of like these people who are in not even POW camps, like internment camps, who have lost their spirit and they're told that they can't bend, and they have to literally find the will to fight. And it hits very hard. And even though it's a filler episode, it tackling that theme is really awesome for a kid's show. I feel like it fails to stand out as much as it deserves, but it's still a really good episode because it's not like, I wouldn't consider it, up to, to standards of the show, but I would still say it's a really good episode. It would sit somewhere in the B tier if this was the tier list, and I'm giving it a 5.5 out of 10. And yeah, absolutely nothing really against this episode. I love what it's doing, but I feel like it could have executed it a little better. Definitely not a bad episode. So now we're getting into, boom, our first two-parter, Winter Solstice, episode 7, The Spirit World. So this might be controversial, but I just don't love this episode. It ends strong with Iroh showing off fire breath and Aang entering the spirit world, but I'm really bored through most of this episode. And I know the giant panda monster, spirit monster, is awesome, but it really bores me. And it's not like bad by any means. It just, I never get sucked into this episode, and I honestly kind of forget it exists. And if that's controversial, sorry. Like I said, these are my opinions, and if you love this episode, be like, hey, you did the giant panda monster spirit dirty, and I'll apologize. But yeah, 3.5 out of 10, and yeah, but from every good part 1, you get a good part 2, and let's see if I liked part 2 better. So we got episode 8, Water Solstice part 2, Avatar Roku. So follow up from last episode, this totally picks up strong with action, with Aang flying over the Fire Navy blockade. I can't talk. And Zuko chasing him. So Zuko has to decide to break his exile to chase him through the blockade. It's such this cool thing of Zuko deciding, like, how much does he put at stake to catch Aang? Like, does he, like, he might be literally killed for breaking his exile. Like, does he put that at stake to chase him? And we also get the faithful fire sage, which is a thing that this show does a lot more later on, but this is kind of our first taste of the fire sage who helps him, of showing us that not all Fire Nation are bad. And it does it a lot more later on in a couple episodes, and we'll do it again. But this is kind of our first taste at that, because they really could have made the Fire Nation, with how evil they make them, which they do, they're very evil, but they really could have made them like one note. And that's just not what they went with. They know that there's good people on all sides, and that's what makes the show so good. It's so well written, the world's so well thought up, and yeah. So again, I'll get into that later. So at the end, we meet Roku and learn about Sozin's comet for the first time and how high the stakes are. So this episode does end super strong, and all that being said, it's a solid episode. You guys are getting so sick of my low ratings, I can tell already. But, they'll pick up. Trust me. Pick up soon, actually. You know why? Because I love this next episode. I was having a conversation with my wife, and she thinks I love this episode more than anybody else loves it. And I'm okay with that, because we got the Waterbending Scroll. I love this episode. I'm probably putting this higher up than most people. But I bet there's an episode like this for everybody, that it just hits you that way. That's what makes this show so great. And I really want to see in the comments of you guys telling me how wrong I am about the Waterbending Scroll, but also telling me what episode like this really hits you. Like, like it's kind of more of a fillery episode, but it's perfect for you guys. And this episode is just great. And that's two of my favorite lines. So one of them is when Sokka asks, like, so what, you guys are playing in the water and I'm supposed to be hard at work picking mud out of a giant bison's feet? And Aang just goes, mud and bugs. like Aang just so smiling. Oh, am I supposed to pick mud out of beat? Mud and bugs. It's love it. And also when Iroh changes course, oh my god, I wish people would get this quote more often. Like if I say it, I wish people knew this show as much as I did, because when Iroh changes course to go get his White Lotus tile, and Zuko overreacts, and he just walks in and goes, "What is the meaning of this mutiny?" And he's just so over the top. Oh, season 1 Zuko. I would say don't ever change, but I'm glad you do. So not only all that, like some of my favorite quotes in the whole show, but I love the pirates. The pirates are very well designed, and also we get a hint of the Lotus tile and the Waterbending Scroll, making Katara feel insecure that Aang picks up waterbending so fast. I'm sorry, guys. I love this episode, and if you disagree, go back and rewatch it. I think you might love it as much as I do. I think this episode is an absolute banger, and it's my favorite of the season so far. And guess what? I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I don't care. Like, you know, you probably have those episodes for you guys that you love that much, and yeah, that's fine. Cool. But I love this episode. This episode is maybe one because I know there's a lot. This is definitely a fan favorite because we have Jet, another Dave Filoni episode. So this is a solid episode, and again, it's showing the complexity of war, right? Because a great thing the show does is show it's not just Fire Nation bad, everybody else good. It is that, but it's not just that, and it shows us the complexity of being a freedom fighter during a war. So how easy it is to just become the villain, and if you let hate and vengeance fool you. So even though Jet is doing something noble, right? But he's not letting, he's letting hate and vengeance fuel him, right? So he's going at it from a negative place in his heart, and that totally shows. So he's not just like, a peacekeeper. He's like Batman with hook blades, but not as cool as Batman. No offense to Jet. Jet and his crew are all also just fantastically designed, so much like the pirates. They all have their own thing, and you have Longshot, and oh my god, you have the Pipsqueak and Duke. I do love this episode. I don't love it as much as the last one, but not everything can be Waterbending Scroll. I do really like this episode, and I'd give it a 8 out of 10. So, yeah. Moving on. All the way to episode 11. This is gotta be the most, everyone loves this episode, right? It's The Great Divide. Is it just me who can really give or take this episode? So again, this might be controversial. I'm sure people think of this one as like the episode they really like from this season, and Waterbending Scroll is like, who cares? But I just don't like this episode. This might be controversial. I don't know. The concept is solid. How a family feuds can be started over simple misunderstandings, and then like generations later they hate each other. So this it's very this concept has been used a lot, and there's a short story by Saki called The Interlopers, and that very famous short story is a lot of this of families not even knowing why the fight started to begin with, but because everybody hated, just because the Capagoos hated the Capagoos, the Capulets hated the Montagues. We don't know why they do. They just did forever. And it has a lot of that. And I do like that concept. But I don't love this episode. It also plays on the fact that Aang feels forced to be a peacekeeper, that Aang might not be there in his Avatar journey to constantly want to be a peacekeeper, that he feels like he has to because he's the Avatar. I remember liking this episode when I first watched it, and I don't know what happened. My heart has grown dark since then, because I skip it now, and I don't skip episodes, but I do skip The Great Divide. And if you're a Great Divide fan, and this is your favorite episode, tell me in the chat, all right? Tell me in the comments, be like, you done Great Divide dirty, and I'll be like, wow. You're that guy, good for you. You're an awesome dude. But I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. Oh my god. All right. Sorry if you guys are huge Great Divide fans. But here comes an episode I love. And we got episode 12, The Storm. So this episode definitely fires on all cylinders. and Sokka, what is this freaking M. Night Shyamalan? Sokka goes out fishing and gets caught in a storm. And at the same time, tensions at Zuko's ship hit an all-time high when they're also caught in the exact same storm. And we get this paralleled backstory. Now, this isn't the last time they do this. And this is something I love. And I'm going to bring it up again later on. But this parallel, instead of just giving us Aang backstory, it also is going to give us Zuko backstory at the same time. And it's kind of our first hint that Zuko's not going to be a one-note villain, right? He's not, and he isn't. He's one of my favorite characters. And, you know, on any given day, I'm going to say somebody else is my favorite character, but more often than not, I say Zuko is. And we learn Aang's backstory and Zuko's backstory at the exact same time, and it explains why they both act the way they do. So the trauma that Zuko feels from being almost killed by his own father makes him obsessed with regaining his honor and please his father. And then on the opposite side of the coin, because these characters are so similar, you just don't realize it yet, we learn that Aang has been acting so childish and has been fighting against the idea of being the Avatar because he feels like learning that he's the Avatar stole his childhood from him, right? Because he learned it early. He wasn't supposed to learn it until he's like 16. He learns it too early. And he feels like after that, he has to do Avatar stuff. And he couldn't keep hanging out with his friends like he was still a child. And now he's reverts to acting more childish, like with the marble and so on and so forth. And, oh, I want to go surf on the Unagi. The reason he's acting so childish is he's literally fighting back against the Avatar identity. That gets explored in this episode, and at the same time, we explore why Zuko acts, what's the meaning of this mutiny? He acts so extra, and so it's my destiny. I still love Zuko. I don't care. And then also another great thing, so we get this really great animation in this. So when Appa is flying through the storm and he's like flying over the water, it's such these cool, beautiful shots. And we see Zuko like see him, and he has to choose this time, just like when he had to go through the blockade, but he chose, screw it, I'm going to follow the Avatar. This time he sees the bison and decides, no, saving my crew on the ship is more important, right? And Aang learning saving Sokka is more important, right? So they both of them are growing as characters. I love this episode. So this episode is character building done absolutely right. And yeah, it's up there, and it's an S tier episode, and I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I love this episode. I think the storm is very underrated, and yeah. Now we're going to the Blue Spirit. Episode 13, Blue Spirit. Another Dave Filoni. You're going to see a lot of Dave Filoni season 1. And I don't know what happened between, like, you know, season 1 and season 2. Maybe Star Wars is like, hey, can you make all of our good stuff? And he's like, okay. Sorry, Nickelodeon. I don't know. That's my headcanon. That, like, after season 1 of Avatar comes out, Dave Filoni, like, directs all these episodes in season 1. They're like, you know, Disney/Star Wars calls them, like, hey, can you make all of our really good cartoons? He's like, goose. But yeah, so we got Blue Spirit. I do like this episode. So it starts off with Zhao being promoted to Admiral because, you know, I don't know. Why would you have to promote that? Dingbat. But, you know, whatever. He likes libraries and he's got a moon obsession. Promote him. He also gains that whole hardcore archer squad. And, yeah, so they capture Aang, and when he's looking for frogs. Wow, that's a weird thing. The gag that Momo keeps bringing. So he's out looking for frogs for Sokka and Katara because they're sick, and you know you like have to lick the frog or whatever. The gag that Momo keeps bringing them random stuff, and then every scene it flips back to them, and they're still like, and then there's just like piles of like gold. I love that gag. It's really funny. It's a funny gag. So yeah, everything but water. So then this is the first time we see Zuko dressed as the blue spirit, and he frees Aang. I love this. I do, because it truly shows us that Zuko is not evil. He just wants to go home and make his father proud. If he was just there to kill the Avatar, he would kill the Avatar. But no, he has to he doesn't even care if Aang gets captured. He needs to go back home. And it's great. It's a fun episode. It kind of is a slog at parts. I do like this episode, but I mean, yeah, like I said, it kind of is slow, and him being captured feels like it takes a very long time. And yeah, I still dig it. It's still a great episode. I'm giving it a 10 out of 6. And yeah, now we're going to start moving down in the rankings for a little bit. We're going to dip back up. So that was Blue Spirit. Now we're going to have, whoa, not that. Oh my God. Oh, here it is. It's just out of nowhere, out of order. Episode 14, The Fortune Teller. It's fine. Fortune Teller's okay. It's very filler, but it's still a fun episode. And we get to see the platypus bear for the first time, right? Platypus bear. And we also get to see the voice actress, I'm going to butcher her name because that's what I do, Michaela Jill Murphy, the best known for the voice of Toph. She voices Mang in here, and it's very much like the first time we heard her voice. It's cool going back at it once you see Toph for so many episodes, and you go back and watch this, and you're like, that's Toph? I hear Toph right now. Yeah, you absolutely do. So this episode plays with fate and predestination, and it literally straight up tells us that Katara's going to end up with Aang. like it's leaving no chances, right? Guys, it's going to be Aang, Katara. And I know that we're going to kind of ship Zuko, Katara, and I know that's way more interesting. It is. I totally ship Zuko, Katara. But no, it's Aang. We're telling you right now. Deal with it. Oh yeah, we also get June this episode. I don't know why I have to bring up June just because the show brings June back. But I don't really. I mean, out of all characters that they bring back later on as hey, remember them? I never do. I never remember June this episode. Oh wait, no, that's next episode, June. Oh my God. So this episode doesn't do anything profound, but it is still a blast. Here I go. I'm looking at my stuff for the next episode. Let's go. It would be low C tier. So we're going to go under 5 on this. So let's go 4 out of 10. And now we're going to talk about June. See, I've already done half my review for Bout of the Water Tribe. I haven't even brought up the slide Bout of the Water Tribe. So episode 15. I'm not a huge fan of this episode. So I love that we get information and backstory on Sokka and Katara's dad. And the scene where they have to sail the boat through the rocks is super cool because it kind of gives us our first hint at how good of a leader Sokka is. But I hate Aang in this episode. I do. I hate that he's jealous of them hanging out with Bato, and he keeps the letter from their dad. I think it's really dumb. It doesn't feel like Aang to me, and it feels really out of character. And jealous, sad and jealous Aang, you're gonna see that I'm gonna rank those episodes lower. I hate this version of Aang, and yeah, that's it. I hate that he keeps this information from them because he's oh, you're hanging out with your friend more. Come on. And whatever, maybe it fits his character and I'm just, I don't know. But I do think this is my least favorite version of Aang is jealous and sad Aang. So I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. And like I said, just because I'm giving it a 1 out of 10 doesn't mean I hate it. I dislike it, but again, I'm trying to rank all the episodes with themselves. So I'm going to have 10 out of 10s in here, and I'm going to have 1 out of 10s. I'm going to have less 1 out of 10s. All right. So yeah, so that was Bato of the Water Tribe. I don't love it. Here we go. Deserter. I love Deserter though. This episode's fun. I won't go so far as say love, even though I just did. But yeah, this gives us more of what I was talking about with the Fire Sage. So the fact that not all Fire Nation are bad. Sometimes we see this a lot in the show. And we also see Aang rushing to learn firebending backfires on him. There's a pun for you guys. There. Wasn't funny, but it was punny. So he accidentally burns Katara, and this gives him the fear of firebending later. And something I really like about this is it shows us the different natures of bending. So this shows us the natures of firebending, of how it acts on its own. It's more destructive and it's uncontrollable, right? Like if you waterbend and water lands, that water is not going to spread and freeze everything like fire is, like it's uncontrollable, right? And that's why firebending is so you don't just rush into it. I do think Zhang Zhang is also an extremely interesting character, and he, unlike June from last episode, I'm glad we see Zhang Zhang again. And yeah, but in Bato the Water Tribe, we meet Zhang Zhang and we meet June. Whatever. But I really do like Zhang Zhang. I think this is a very solid episode. And again, it's not like groundbreaking, holy crap, but freaking 5 out of 10. Dug it. It's good. It's a good one. Is that gonna be my catchphrase? It's a good one? No. All right, why did I put that back up? God, I wish this guy would just edit. He makes all these mistakes. Yeah, deal with it. All right. Go Northern Air Temple. It's another Dave Filoni. And hey, look, there's some really interesting stuff this episode's doing. And so, just like with Imprisoned, this episode explores a lot of horrible stuff that happens during oppressive government. So, like how cultures can get destroyed. So this does a lot of things. So it shows how cultures can get destroyed in the name of progress, like showing how the temple is destroyed by the inventors so he can invent more stuff. So it's literally showing us ancient cultures. Well, not really ancient, it's 100 years, but still being destroyed in the name of, quote, I mean, here, let me show you my finger quotes, progress, right? And it also shows us how war can press new technology, which has always been a thing, is technology will progress during war because war is a necessity in these oppressive governments' eyes. So in order to fight the enemy, we're going to push technology further. And as much as I don't love that, I'm not an advocate for war. I'm not an advocate for any of that. And it does show us, how war can press these technologies. And also it shows us the morality of great minds making weapons of war, right? So this dude, who isn't a bad guy, like we later see him again, like these dudes, even though he's destroying the Northern Air Temple, he's not a bad dude, and his son's cool and stuff, but he's being used to make weapons of war because he's an inventor. And this is a lot like, pacifists working on the atom bomb, things like that. So these are all really super heavy topics for a kid's show, and I think it's great. I love that this explores those heavy topics because this show is ultimately a war going on the entire show, and it doesn't hide any of it. And it really does explore a lot of stuff about war. And also, Sokka is in his element with the goofy inventor guy, and it's really cool to see Sokka in his element, like the stink bombs and all these cool things. And yeah, it's good stuff. I'll give it it'd be like another B tier, so I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. And yeah, let's finally get up to the freaking North Pole. Man, I feel like we've been flying on this bison forever, eh? We have the Waterbending Master. So I got a lot for this episode. So after the entire season, we finally get to the Northern Water Tribe. And it's an awesome site. I love how it's designed. This episode is packed with a lot of good stuff. We meet Princess Yue. We watch Sokka make a fool out of himself, and as he flirts and forgets who Suki is. Yeah. So one thing I gotta give Sokka anti-credit for is that he's he plants the seeds for 2 relationships in the same season, man. Suki who. He does it a lot. Right? I see you. It's a little sus, Sokka. Also, we learned that sexism isn't just like a Sokka thing, but it's totally a Water Tribe thing. And as much as you love the Water Tribe, the 2 like main Water Tribes we learn are sexist. And so we learned the Water Tribe thing, and with Katara's treatment from Paku, and I'm glad we also get to meet Paku. And Paku's yet later on we learn that he's another White Lotus member, and he's a complex character in his own way. And we also get to see Admiral Zhao move from a pain in the butt to the seasoned big bad as he plans his invasion. So he's not just a pain in the butt, but he is the seasoned big bad. And he makes an unholy alliance with the pirates from the Waterbending Scroll. And, and they attempt to murder Zuko. Even with all this stuff going on, we get that Katara-Paco fight, and that's what I chose for this slide because, whoo, gotta love that fight. And then after it, he admits, no, women are cool too. Sexism's lame. Jeez, Paco. Yeah. So, again, with this show exploring heavy topics. And that's what I love about it. That's why it's an 8 out of 5. I do love Waterbending Master. It's like A tier for me. Good stuff. We're getting there, guys. We're almost 41 minutes in. And guess what? We're getting there. Because we are finally getting to the Siege of the North. So, Siege of the North Part 1. I'm going to have this episode, a lot of it. And so with the first of the 2 parts, we see how much filler, or not filler, but setup. And that's not bad. That's not bad that this episode is set up, because it's very much like throwing the ball into the air for the next episode to just like Babe Ruth it out of the park, right? So this episode is like the Babe Ruth version of calling a shot, right? It's not as exciting that he's just calling a shot, but wait for it. It's needed to happen. So this is the first of the 2-part season finales, and it sets up how this show knows how to end on epic high notes, because that's what the show can do, is it ends on epic high notes. And just like the one before, this episode is packed and it sets up a lot of stuff. The Yue, Sokka, and Han. His name's Han. He's not as cool as Han Solo. Love triangle. Zuko sneaking into the Northern Water Tribe and like having a fight with a newly badass Katara, and Aang entering the spirit realm just to be kidnapped. This episode does so much legwork to get knocked out of the park, but guess what? It has to, and it's not bad. It's not a filler episode like I might have called it. It's not. It's a setup episode, but it's still good. It's 7.5 out of 10. It does exactly what it needs to. I dig this episode a lot, and it so sets up the shot, right? Because if that is Babe Ruth calling a shot, then freaking episode 20, Siege of the North Part 2, is Babe Ruth just knocking it out of the park. This episode is amazing. So it's the last episode directed by Dave Filoni, but he just kills it, all right? He earns the right to make all the Star Wars afterwards. So it starts with Aang in the spirit world as Zuko has him captive. We get great character moment with Zuko as he talks about how his father treats him compared to his sister. Aang's time in the spirit realm shows us how creepy and cool it is. So we get to meet Ko, the face stealer. Man, does Ko just like hang out in your guys' nightmares like once a year? I'm almost 33 years old, and that guy terrifies me, man. Ko, the face stealer, he's truly nightmare-inducing villain. We see Paco and the other waterbenders defend their home in a great way. Aang comes back and Katara beats Zuko, Aang shows mercy on him because, you know, he's a pacifist and stuff, showing us how truly good he is. And he is. Aang is a lot of things, but he is ultimately a really good and kind-hearted little dude bro. Zhao then shows us what true evil is. So we get to see how truly good Aang is, and then we get to see how truly messed up Zhao is by straight up murdering the moon. Who does that, man? Who does that? Who just like, you know what I'm going to do? Murder the moon. That's some Piccolo / Master Roshi stuff right there. Yeah, so that scene is terrifying. Watching Zhao burn the moon koi fish, and then he turns the world black and white. Like, literally, the color leaves the world. In response, we see the awesome power of the Avatar state when Aang is becoming the freaking kaiju, also called Koizilla, is the fan name for the freaking kaiju, and he destroys the Fire Nation fleet. Awesome. The sacrifice of Yue becoming the actual moon. There's just too much to cover here. And I love how strong this episode is, both with emotional moments and all the action. And not only is this an amazing season ender, but it's just a tease at how this show knows how to end. You know, and also we get a tiny little tease of the big bad coming up. And of course, that's Zula. So we get that little Zula tease. Azula, not Zula, not Zul. He's not the Keymaster. Azula and the Keymaster. All right, yeah. I mean, duh, you guys can tell how much I'm gushing over it. I'm giving this a 9.5 out of 10. It's, come on. This is, it sets a precedent. And wouldn't it be like hilarious if no other season finales end like this? And no, it just shows us that with or without Dave Filoni, these guys can end a freaking season, and they do, and it's great. All right, moving on to season 2 or book 2, and so we have the Avatar state. This episode's fine. It's so hard going from the Amazingness, which is the season finale of season 1, or book 1 to book 2, but yeah, the plot of this episode I like more than the execution. So the crew is arriving in the Earth Kingdom, and General Feng, great name by the way, is trying to awaken the Avatar state by forcing it out of Aang, and it shows us why Aang can't always enter it, and why Aang can't be like solve all issues with it. You know, like we find out how powerful he is, and he becomes Koizilla, and then you know we needed to know as viewers that Aang can't just be like, oh, there's a problem, I'm gonna go Super Saiyan, right? He can't go Super Saiyan all the time, and unlike Goku. All right, I'll stop with the Dragon Ball Z references. Jeez. Yeah, so it's not always problem solver, and yeah, we also learned that if he dies in the Avatar state, it breaks the Avatar cycle. Again, I like how much we learn in this episode, but it's just not, the A story just isn't there. It's just like this big bearded general messing with Aang for a whole episode. I don't love it. But it's super overshadowed, and I'm going to be saying this a lot in season 2, but this episode is overshadowed by the B plot. Azula gets fantastically fully introduced, not just a tease, but fully introduced, and Zuko and Iroh are about to leave for the Fire Nation, and then like that awesome scene where they learn that she's going to turn on them, and then they straight up just like desert and cut their hair knots off. That scene is so powerful, and it sets up the series long change that we're going to get in Zuko. And seriously, this episode is saved by its B plot, and that's gonna be a thing in season 2. So 5 out of 10, not a bad episode. I don't love the A plot that much, but ooh boy, do I love the B plot. All right, so are you guys ready for freaking Cave of Two Lovers? This episode is filler done so right. Like, it's absolute filler. But I love this episode. So we meet the traveling hippie nomads, and I want you guys to know that almost every line they say is gold. Like every line the hippie nomads say is gold. And now every time I am like on my bike and I'm about to go through a tunnel, like underneath like a highway, I have to yell, "Secret tunnel!" Like, or even if I'm driving and there's a tunnel, I have to yell, "Secret tunnel!" Thanks to this freaking episode. This episode's goofy and fun, and it's in everything you want in a filler. It's full of jokes. We learn about the Badger Moles, so we get a little bit of a cool backstory. And it's also further explores the love between Qatar and Aang. And it's not the most important episode, but man, is this episode a bloody good time. And yeah, it would be, yeah, solid. Wait, yeah, solid 7 out of 10. Good stuff. Like it. Like this episode. Secret tunnel. Write in the comments if anyone else has yelled secret tunnel. You have to have. I can't be the only dude. Return to Amashu. Yes. I don't know why I'm so excited, but just look at that Aang. I don't actually love this episode, but just Aang gets me hyped with that angry Aang. Okay. We see that Amashu has been taken by the Fire Nation, preventing Aang from training with Bumi. We get a cool little backstory, or a cool little story of resistance within Amashu, with the missing baby and the pentapox, the lesson from Bumi, the do nothing and use neutral Jin. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff, but of course, we get the B plot of Azula recruiting her team of mean girls. And yeah, the mean girls are the season 2 big bads. And yeah, so she recruits May and Ty Lee, and it shows how powerful non-benders can be if they work at it. All in all, I mean, it's rather middle of the road. You know, it'd be like a C tier. And yeah, again, this might be one that a lot of people love, because I do love the Mean Girls, but yeah, 3.5 out of 5, or 3.5 out of 10. But yeah, hey, at least we get the Mean Girls now. Like the bad guys are all set up for this season. Here we go. The Swamp. I like this episode a lot. The Swamp is instantly cool and iconic, and that's why we visit it again and again and again, and we visit in Korra. It's a very trippy episode, and it gives us our first glimpse at Toph with her flying boar. And the design of the creatures and plants in the swamp are super creative. And I love the swamp benders. And it shows us that these different waterbenders have their own very own culture and very own style of waterbending. You know, it's not just the two areas, the swamp benders. And I love the swamp benders. They're just really great characters. And you kind of think that they're bad guys because they want to like kidnap the bison. Oh my god, that's foreshadowing. But you end up loving them at the end because the whole time it's like, why are you trying to kidnap our animals? It's like, we was gonna eat them. That's my swamp bender impression. It's a great episode, 6 out of 10. I mean, again, not profound by any means, just super fun. I love the like catfish alligator designs, and yeah, dude, I gotta love the swamp. But again, it's not like, you know, groundbreaking, but it's good. It's good. There's good stuff here. Good job. That was the swamp. So now we're gonna get into Avatar Day. Another time that the show it uses filler to teach us a past instead of moving the story like forward. I'm okay with it. We get more Kyoshi. I'll never complain about getting information on past avatars because I love, you know, that the show takes place in this era and Korra takes place next, but we still learn so much about other avatars through this show, and it just makes you want to learn more, honestly. The show's lore is so good. I'm a big lore nut, and Avatar Last Airbender lore is up there with the best of them. it really shows us how events from histories can be taken out of context and reformed to push agendas. So again, it's a kid's show, but it's showing us how past events can be used to push political agendas. That happens so much by even our government, by a lot of, like they're gonna look at something to justify their passing their laws now and pass out of context if they have to. And that's, something I love. Now, again, just because it's tackling a big theme doesn't mean the episode's a banger. It's not. It's fine. Give it a 4 out of 10. But yeah, I mean, it's something that people in power do now of taking the past and building it to push your agenda. I'm not going to use any examples because it's not a political show, guys. All right, we're talking about Avatar here. And also, here's a banger. You guys ready? Are you ready for the Blind Bandit? Yes, we finally get tough. Yes, yes. I'm a grown man right now, just sitting in front of his computer going, yes, Blind Bandit, yes. Really, it's the best. I love this. Toph's introduction is as legendary as Toph is, okay? This episode is a blast all the way through. The pro bending, like the pro wrestler earthbenders is so good. Now, I will rank, I'll tell you right now, I don't care if I'm wearing a Cabbage Merchant shirt right now. I put the Boulder as my number one, like, complete side character, all right? You know why? Because Boulder puts the hurt in the dirt. Oh, I fanboy over that. I really need to get a Boulder puts the hurt in the dirt shirt. Wow, there's a bunch of rhyming for you guys. Yeah, so Boulder, okay, whatever, the Pebble, like all the kayfabe and like wrestling of this episode, and then all to show us, and then we get these amazing character moments of why Toph doesn't want to be known and why Toph is doing this and that, and how, how she's being oppressed by being in a upper class society or upper class family. And oh, this episode does so much. It's funny, it's entertaining, it's thoughtful of all of it. And yeah, come on. If you thought I was gonna give Blind Bandit anything short of S tier, you are crazy, and I'm gonna put the hurt in the dirt. It's 9.5 out of 10. This is one of my favorite episodes. And when we get to my top 10 ranking later on, hint, frickin' Blind Bandit's gonna be in there. Trust me. All right, we're gonna be very controversial here because we have Zuko Alone. I'm gonna lubricate really quick. Give me a second. All right, a mixed bag of an episode, and I know this is gonna be controversial. People love Zuko Alone, but I do love that it shows us that there's jerks on all sides of war, which I've talked about, of how the show shows us how complex war is with like the beehole earth-bending soldiers. And we also get more backstory on Zuko and how his father got to be Fire Lord over Iroh. And we also learn why his mom left. Well, it leaves it up to the viewer a little bit, but yeah. I think it's kind of a mix. If I want to toss my hat into the ring, I think the reason why Zuko's mom left is a mixture of her husband's thirst for power and already seeing that Azula is a freaking monster. I wish the rest of this episode was that interesting. That's a problem. Is I really like kind of the backstory stuff we get of it, but the main plot isn't as good, and personally I don't love it, and I'm not giving this a super low rating. Okay, I'm not giving it 2 out of 10 or whatever, but I just know that people absolutely love Zuko Alone, and I just don't. I would put it in the B tier if we're doing tiers, but yeah, I'm going 5.5 out of 10. It's good, it's fine, it's a good episode, but I know that this is like 10 out of 10 for a lot of people. I'm sorry, I'm just not there, man. I honestly was expecting that. Like, looking back, I love this episode. And then when I watch it, I'm like, it's fine. Put the hurt in the dirt. Okay. Episode 8 of season 2, or book 2. I gotta stop saying season. The chase. This episode is yet another mixed bag. The conflict between Katara and Toph, for her not helping, it gets old really fast. It really does. I carry my own weight, sister. Like it honestly, it's kind of like a groan. Like, cool, can we move on? Toph is a loner. She doesn't fit in your guys' little place yet. The mean girls chasing them on the lizards, it really doesn't feel like a real threat. It feels like just a plot convenience to make the crew like keep moving and bicker at each other and get more sleepy. And it really, like, it almost makes them not feel like humans, like they're a force of nature that they're running from. And it kind of gives it's a disservice to how cool the characters the Mean Girls really are. And yeah, so there are two really high moments in this, and this is of course when so Toph like walks away and runs into Iroh, and then they talk. That's a really cool scene. And of course the fight scene at the end is really cool, and that's what I got the picture of for the slide. It feels so much like an Old West standoff of like them being in like this kind of abandoned town, and it's like the first time you really see Zuko teaming up with them against Azula, and Aang learning that Azula is way more powerful than she looks. Like, I really think the ending is what saves this episode for me. I would put it, in a C tier, so below average. When it comes to the show, of course, I'd give it like a 3 out of 10. I hope you guys are understanding what I mean when I'm talking about my ratings. This is compared to the show. If I were to compare this to, I'm not going to name a show, but any other show, it's going to be higher up. It's still, there's a lot to love. But in comparison to what this show does really well, it's drops. And all right, so then we're going to move on to Book 2, Episode 9, or Episode 29, Bitter Work. This is a fun time. So we get a parallel story of Aang training with Toph and Zuko learning how to redirect lightning from Iroh. So yeah, we get that. Again, we get these parallels between Aang and Zuko. Oh, weird. Do they do that on purpose? Oh, weird. Oh, another Zuko Aang parallel. Yeah, of course they do it on purpose. And it's great. It's what makes the show really, really well written. And can we just talk about, that's why I have the writers up and the directors, because you have to know who these people are, because the show is so well written. But yeah, so though the earthbending learning is a fun montage, I like the lesson that like earth is blunter and it's strength based more than air and water. And Iroh explaining the 4 elements and the awesome power of lightning and how one little misstep can kill you is super interesting. I love that of when Iroh is drawing all 4 elements in the sand. Like, it's one of the best descriptions of the elements we get in the entire series, and it's so good. This episode's it's a dark horse. Yeah. And so the one little misstep when you're like literally putting lightning through your body is great. So then, of course, he won't shoot. He's like, all right, cool, shoot me with lightning. He's like, are you mad? What are you talking about? So then Zuko goes and yells at a thunderstorm until he cries. That's a powerful moment, man. Like, we all deal with stress. Not to make this like a BetterHelp ad, but we all deal with stress. And in seeing somebody want something so bad, and where he's like yelling at a storm, like, shoot me with lightning, damn it, until he cries. It's a really powerful moment. And Sokka gets stuck in a hole the whole time and makes friends with a saber-toothed moose line. Okay. I mean, that's the thing that happens this episode, right? The fact he names it Foo Cuddly Poops is great. And that reason right there is why it's S tier. I'm kidding. It's not. I do like this episode, and it's good. It's not crazy uber high up there, but yeah, it's a solid episode. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Boom. All right. Are we all ready to start to feel sad? Because we're halfway through season 2. We're literally halfway through season 2. And that's when stuff gets real. That's when we run into a owl dragon. Did you guys know that owl dragons exist? Because they do, man. And they run libraries. This episode is crazy good and crazy sad. So the crew finds the underground Wang Chi Tong's library. We learn about the eclipse. And yeah, so now we got the eclipse we know about. We got the comet we know about. Bing, bang, boom. It's like we're set up now. We now know what we're going to do season 3. And how Zhao learned about the moon spirit. And that's why Wang Chi Tong, the freaking giant owl dragon spirit, like dislikes humans due to Zhao using knowledge as a weapon. Yeah, I love Wang Chi Tong. This ending is, of course, extremely tense with the library sinking, and then also extremely sad because the Sandbender still Appa. This one is hard to place, honestly. So it is a super memorable episode. I love how Wang Chi Tong is designed. Like, he's very like, I'm just an owl who runs this library. And when they're like, hey, we learned about an eclipse, and he's like, and gets all nuts. Whew, I love his design. His design's great. But the ending makes me never want to revisit it, honestly. And it's the majority of the episode's good. And it's not because it's bad. The episode's not bad. The ending's not bad. But it's sad. And I'm not always like, hey, this is like the 1 hour that me and my wife have nothing going on and our like daughter's asleep and we're just going to sit. You want to cry? No, not really. So I don't ever skip this episode by any means. But it is definitely hard to revisit because it's just uber sad. But what am I talking? 7.5 out of 10. It's great. It would be A tier, mid A tier. And yeah, good stuff. You guys remember what I was saying about sad? We got the desert. It's the quenchiest. All right, I have fond memories of this episode, but when I rewatched it, I found it kind of a slog. It not a lot happens, and it's kind of really hard to get through. It does have its moments. It's not without its moments. We get of course, the tripping on cactus juice, Sokka and Momo. That's cool, right? A little bit of cactus juice. It's the quenchiest. And the secret White Lotus stuff, is all cool. But man, this episode really drags. It does. I'm sorry. I don't know why I have to apologize all the time, but whenever I give a low rating, I feel bad because I know that you guys, there's definitely somebody in here who thinks this episode's better than ones I love. And cool. Tell me about that. Tell me which ones you loved. And especially if they're ones that I don't love. But yeah, sad and angry Aang is like my least favorite Aang. And sadly, we get a lot of that the rest of the season it's not my favorite Aang. And and man, it's just so sad. 2 out of 10. It's the quenchiest. All right, and it's about time we get to freaking Ba Sing Se, right? Do I all my slides are all jumbled out of nowhere. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. Oh man, I have to look up another slide. 1 second. Do 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 32. All right, let's do it. Slide 32. We got the Serpent's Pass. And yeah, there are some cool alliances and reunions in this episode. Suki shows back up, and Sokka promptly forgets about the moon. Sokka, you gotta choose, all right? Okay? Warrior lady or the moon? Stop flip-flopping. All right. Jet and Zuko team up. Something I never knew I wanted so much. But, the crew helping a pregnant couple is vintage heroic stuff, right? And I love the angle of Sokka protecting Suki even though she's far more capable, she's far more capable than he is, because he lost Yue at the North Pole, and he probably even knows that Suki is far more capable, but he doesn't want to lose another lady who he loves. Yeah, and then him not wanting to kiss her in front of the moon. It's cool character building. Oh yeah, and we learn that Smeller B is a girl, so that's fun. And I totally do ship her and Longshot. Is that a ship that a lot of people have? Longshot and Smellerby? Maybe. I don't know. Possibly. We get an adorable moment when Toph kisses Suki on the cheek because she thinks it's Sokka. and then she's like, "Thanks, Sokka." It's like, "No problem," in Suki's voice. And she's like, "All right, you let me drown now." I love that moment. Okay, it's so good. I always smile at it. Also, Aang thinking it's also Aang learns to hope and not just be sad about Appa. So he does try to he doesn't get over Appa by any means, but he does kind of realize that he's got bigger fish to fry. If you get what I'm saying, that you're not forgetting, but we're here, we have stuff to do. It's a sneaky good episode. I would put an A tier, like a 7 out of 10. And yeah, good stuff. So now let's get on to episode 13 of book 2, which is episode 33. Do I got that? Yeah, I do. All right. Got the drill of book 2. Another Giancarlo Volpe. See, this is why I didn't want to read out names, but you'll see Giancarlo Volpe directing a lot of really good ones, and also Dante or Michael Dante DiMartino does a lot of good writing, and I think he even directs a couple. Good stuff. I really want to like this episode. I wish I could like this episode more than I do. It's got some cool action, and the Mean Girls are fighting, fight the. I wrote Boomerang Gang, the Boomerang Gang. Oh, that's funny. Why did I write that? On the giant drill, is that a thing? Do they say the Boomerang Gang? Maybe I forgot. I'm doing an homage to the episode. All right, for some reason, this episode's boring. Isn't that weird? They're fighting on a giant drill. How am I bored? They literally joke about this during the Ember Island Players about, why am I bored right now? And yeah, it's kind of boring, even though it's got a lot of good action in it. It isn't bad. It's just not as epic as it should be, or, not as epic as it wants to be. And yeah, so I'm going to have to give it a little lower. Give it a 3.5 out of 10. But yeah, not a bad episode. It's just not what I want. It's not as exciting as it thinks it is. It insists upon itself, Lois. All right. You guys ready for Julie? But I'm Julie. Okay. Secrets, City of Walls and Secrets. It's an interesting episode. So we learned all kinds of things about Ba Sing Se and how the Dai Li use bureaucracy and propaganda to control the city. It's a cool and realistic take on how to oppress a nation without using force. So, we see a lot of Fire Nation oppressing and everything with soldiers and, literal, military oppression. And this is a whole other way of a war of ideas, right? And propaganda and in secret police. And again, these are the good guys, right? Earth Nation should be, or Earth Kingdom should be the good guys. But we see corruption in all governments, even the ones that we want to be rooting for. I love this show for doing that. And it does it a lot more in Korra. It really, really finds ways to put political ideologies on villains in Korra. That's kind of like what Korra's villains are, most of them. But I do love how this does this, how it shows us these oppressive governments. It's a kid's show, all right? Jeez, you're reading too much into it, yo. Of course, the B plot. You guys ready? I'm going to talk about the B plot. B plot shows us Iroh and Zuko getting a job at the cheap shop, and Jet spying on them, trying to like see if they are firebenders, leading to a fun hook swords in twin swords fight in a tea shop. Who knew we wanted that? The ending with a very creepy scene of Jet being brainwashed. And we meet the chilling Long Fang, and most importantly, Bosco, the regular bear. He's a regular bear? Whoa. Why did I go Keanu Reeves with that? Whoa. I am a regular bear. Whoa. All right. Oh, my God. You know, I'm looking down on anyone who's enjoying this. You guys need The Wire. Go watch The Wire. It's better than me. What are you doing here? We're going to get Tales of Bossing Say. And this is the first episode that it gives us a lot of vignettes. And I love it. So that's why I have all these different writers, because different writers wrote different parts of it. So yeah, if you want to know who the writers are, stop doing the dishes or whatever you're doing as you're listening to this and look at the screen, because I got all the writers written. So it's an episode of vignettes, and honestly, they all work. All of them work. And the story of Iroh is probably my favorite in here. The sweet soldier boy. Oh my God. Little character moments are adorable and sad. Like Iroh's is sad. And this episode isn't a groundbreaker, and it doesn't progress the story, but that's okay. They don't all need to be like that. They don't all need to be super serious. It's nice to take a break and just hang out with our characters and get these really cool moments of them on their own, and not always, with the full group. And I like this episode a lot. Oh, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Again, like a solid B tier. And yeah. And that brings on to, are you guys ready to cry? This is the saddest episode of the whole show. We got Appa's Lost Days. All right. Keep it together. Keep it together. This is a very sad episode, and there's a lot of cruelty towards Appa, which is really hard to watch. I can't really do a lot of animal cruelty. It's something, like, I'm sure most humans feel the same way. Like if you can do a lot of animal cruelty, you're a little weird. But yeah, the animal cruelty really gets to me in this episode, and how the sandbenders treat him, and how he's treated at the circus, and how he's put in bondage and deprived of food, and he's whipped with fire. It's one of the episodes I do skip, and I'm gonna say right now, it's one of the few episodes I skip, but it's not because it's bad. All right, it's kind of like what I was saying with the library. Is I don't skip this episode because it's bad. It's because I'm a major Appa fan, and it's so hard to watch. It's extremely sad, and like once he's free, how he flies directly to the spot where he last saw Aang. Oh my God. And it's just one of the saddest episodes. And there are some high moments, like when Appa runs into the Kyoshi Warriors, and we kind of more on them, and we see the Kyoshi Warriors fight the Mean Girls, which then sets things up. And also he meets the Guru, which then comes back up in a couple episodes too. Just to be captured again by Long Fang. All right. It was really hard for me to place this episode because it is very effective and it does everything it wants to do, which is make me sad. But I don't know, man. I give it a 5 out of 10. I'm not sure if I agree with my own ranking on this. So if you're like, dude, Appa's Last Days, you're really wrong about, I might agree with you because I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about an episode that just breaks my little heart, my little itty bitty heart so much. It's a sad freaking episode. Okay. Now this one is low key one of the best in the series. We have Lake Lao Guy. The episode itself is really good, but I'm going to talk about why I consider this one of the best in the entire series. So we get Brainwash Jet in some awesome action with the crew fight and the Freedom Fighters fighting Long Fang and the Dai Li. Some super tragic seeing the freedom fighter Jet literally become an object used by an oppressive government. Like, think about that for a second. Jet, his whole thing is that he fights oppressive governments, right? He's fighting the Fire Nation, an enemy government, and his own one, the Earth Kingdom, brainwashes him and uses him as a weapon. Whoa, like that's like, you know, that's one of the worst possible fates for a freedom fighter. It's really sad, and it's really tragic. Jet's a really tragic character, and yeah. Sorry, I got lost. There's the tear choking moment with Aang and Appa finally reuniting, but I'll tell you right now, this is what really pushes this episode into something special for me, and it's the scene I have right in front of you guys of this slide is Iroh yelling at Zuko. So the voice actor Mako, who the voice of Iroh, Mako, this is probably the best voice acting in the entire show. He is so insanely good in this episode, in this scene. So when he's schooling him about destiny, his voice acting, his performance is simply breathtaking. It is one of my favorite voice performances, period, ever. And yeah, it's just like, this episode's already super solid, but when he's yelling at him, this is about you and what you want. I can't do it. No one can do it justice. It's literally one of the best voice acting performances of all time. It is so insanely good. And yeah, it totally pushes this episode into greatness for me. And I'm not going to lie, it's a 9 out of 10. It is an S tier episode for me. And I am very unapologetic. If you don't remember loving this episode that much, go back and watch it. Go back and watch and think about all the really powerful things it's doing in this episode, but also freaking that voice performance, man. You got to look at, you know, shows are a lot of different things, and they're not just storytelling. So they are, of course, that's what they are. But you also got to look at animation. You also have to look at voice performances. You have to look at how scenes are directed, so on and so forth. All of that goes into this. And when one of those things fires 100%, it lifts up the entire episode for me. And that's it. Is Mako's performance is insane as Iroh in this episode. I want to rewatch it now. I'm gonna watch it after this. All right, we got. I had to use that picture of the Earth King. Man, it makes me laugh. All right. This episode starts with an amazing action sequence with the team fighting their way all the way through the royal palace. It is a super, like, awesome action sequence. Sorry, I was getting something to drink. Showing us how much the crew has, like, leveled up their bending. And also, like, the Earth King and Bosco, like, heck yeah. But let's talk about the level of their bending. Like, I like to look at everything as a role-playing game because I'm a nerd, right? And I look at everybody with a character sheet, and you could just see how many points they're putting in their bending. Like, all their character sheets are getting bigger. And watching them fight their way through the palace is so cool. It's like, wow, these guys got skill points lately. You know? All right, yeah. So we get to meet Earth King and Bosco. The A plot spends a lot of time with Aang and the crew trying to convince the king that the war even exists. You guys ready for my favorite thing to say during book 2? But the B plot is Zuko going through the eternal struggle with his destiny. But he ultimately decides to leave the path his father set on, and he chooses the path of good for now. And yeah, so yeah, at least for now. Plus the ending sets up the last 2 episodes. So again, you know, setting up for the finales is something the show does really well. And Toph being captured, and that happens at the end of this episode, and the Mean Girls are getting revealed as fake Kyoshi warriors. This episode's great, and really, there's a lot to like in this episode, and it's a solid 7 out of 10. Yeah, but we're getting dangerously close to another season finale, another book finale, if you will. We got the Guru. All right. I think this episode, think of this episode as like part 1 of the finale, right? And it isn't. This isn't like, Crossroads of Destiny part 1. And it very much should be. It's just the Guru, though. But it does really feel like part 1 of the finale because it does a lot of setting up. And again, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Setup episodes are not bad. I will die on that hill. And it shows most of the characters are in really good spots, like really good places in their hearts before everything falls apart. So Aang training with the Guru in order to find balance and control his avatar state. The Guru's explanation of, he calls them chakras, but it's chakras. It's one of the best I've ever heard. So I was talking to somebody who puts a lot of like work into like their spirituality and about becoming Zen and working on the chakras. And they told me, like, if you want to understand it, watch Avatar, because this is one of the best of, blocking the stream from each chakra all the way down. It's like one of the best explanations of chakras ever. It's so cool. Though the scene when Aang leaves to save his friends before finishing his training, it's just a little too Empire Strikes Back, and I'll allow it. I'm going to bring up Empire Strikes Back a lot these next 2 episodes, because I do think that this is the Empire Strikes Back of the series, these 2 episodes. But it is like so on the nose that the Guru might as well be like, leave now, stop your training. Like, I can't do the line right now. It's so Empire Strikes Back. All right, but like I said, I'll allow it. The Sokka stuff with his dad is very delightful. Seeing those 2 together is great. Along with Zuko and Iroh enjoying making the tea in their new shop. And then, of course, we get to see Katara fighting the Mean Girls. And Toph, what does Toph do this episode? Freaking invents metal bending! Yes! Oh, God. Love Toph. Invents metal bending. Okay. It all ends with the alliance of Azula and Long Feng. Again, a great episode that puts everything in place for the finale to just like knock it out of the park. And just like what I did last time, I'm not going to rank this uber high because, like I said, it is all set up. But that doesn't make it bad. It's really good. But it's throwing the ball up for it to get knocked out of the park. And spoiler alert, it gets knocked out of the park again. Here we go. Crossroads of Destiny. This episode's almost perfect. It is, in my opinion. This episode is almost a perfect episode. It has such great character moments, like Ty Lee flirt fighting with Sokka. It's like we're dancing. And then the scene where Katara and Zuko are in prison together, and we see their similarities and in how they really should hate each other, but and you really do see the eternal struggle inside Zuko. And then, the finale happens, and we do see that the eternal struggle inside Zuko brings him back down the path of evil. And the fight between Aang, Katara, and Zuko and Azula is some of the best in the entire show. The ending is just, I mean, I know I keep saying powerful, but it's just so powerful. Aang letting go and embracing the Avatar state just to be literally killed by Azula. He dies here. And season 2 really does feel like this is Zuko's season, and the finale proves it. There's just so much to praise here. And seriously, I could probably talk about Crossroads of Destiny for like an hour. And I'm already more than an hour of talking about all of these, but it's so good. Crossroads of Destiny is so insanely good. And it does, season 2, I do think is Zuko's season. And what I love about that is that he goes the other way, and he is going good. And then he finally, Azula's like, you can have everything you ever wanted right now. And then he goes that way. And anyone who's watching it's like, what? No! And in that subverting that expectations, it's so good. I mean, what do you think I'm going to give this episode? Seriously, it's Crossroads of Destiny. I'm going to give it a 1. No, I'm kidding. It's a 10 out of 10. This episode's a 10 out of 10. And it's one of my favorite episodes, period. And yeah, will you see it later on in my top 10 list? You better believe you're just going to see it later on. It's 10 out of 10. I love Crossroads of Destiny. If I don't just stop talking about it, I will never stop. So I'm just going to... All right. Episode 1 of Book 2, The Awakening. We made it to Season 3, guys. This episode has a ton of work to do. So a lot of this is just showing us a passage of time and what has happened. And it tries to catch us up on all the changes. Aang dealing with failure and the world thinking he's dead, which is a really big deal to him. Because he doesn't want the world to feel like he abandoned the whole world again. And Zuko dealing with still feeling like a failure and a traitor because he, was a traitor to his uncle. Katara having that powerful moment with her dad because she's like, yeah, I don't want to get into that. But like her moment with her dad where she's like bickering at him and so on and so forth. And then that like powerful moment when they reconnect. It's so good. We finally meet the real big bad. We finally meet Fire Lord Ozai. And who's doing the voice acting? It's Mark freaking Hamill. Okay? Mark Hamill. Why not? Why not get Mark Hamill? Is he busy? Come on. Get Mark Hamill. Season 3 feels like a completely different and darker and less like a kid show than Season 1. And I have to say, this episode fits that tone perfectly. And I didn't know until I was writing this of how much, like, how good Season 3 is. Like, Season 3 is good. It's a 6 out of 10. Solid B tier with The Awakening. And yeah, again, it doesn't do a lot because it has to do so much backstory of like catching us up, and it doesn't really progress the plot a lot. But I couldn't imagine like watching this show and then watching Crossroads of Destiny. You have to wait until the whole next year for it to come out. I'm glad I binged all this in college. All right. Episode 42. It's the answer to life, the universe, and everything, everybody. And it's also the headband of, episode 42. So book 3, episode 2. Man, this episode is fun. It's Aang going to school. It's a classic fish out of water stuff. We get Aang doing the secret dance party. It's a total blast. Most importantly, it explores how, you ready for it? Oppressive nations. Wow. It explores how oppressive nations use school to induct young minds with propaganda. And that right there is very powerful of like them saying, air army or the air nomads army. And Aang's like, they didn't have an army? Like, what are you talking about? And yeah, of you're teaching these children really young and you're molding them with propaganda. And it's just so powerful because that's what every nation does, and especially oppressive nations like the Fire Nation. And yeah, I love it. So plus we got Zuko visiting Iroh in prison, and we get Zuko's eternal struggle. It's eternal, so it's still going on. Did you think his eternal struggle was done? Come on, man. Do you even know what the word eternal means? 6 out of 10. Good episode. Just like the last one. There isn't going to be a lot of bad episodes, man. Yeah. I'm saying that, and then I'm about to talk about the Painted Lady. Painted Lady's not a bad episode. It's just kind of lower. So we got Painted Lady. So we got some more Season 3 filler, and the Painted Lady is decent. It is. It's not bad by any means. We do explore how imperialized nations can hurt more rural communities with industrialized war machine. like how the factory is using water, and this really rural river town gets destroyed because of it, and how Katara goes full hero to save the fishing village, and we get that really cool thing with like the dude with like 3 different personalities regarding what hat he's wearing. It's fine. Again, like if you're watching this show and you all of a sudden like fell asleep during the Painted Lady and you woke up, you would not be lost by any means. It's fine. 4 out of 10. Not a bad episode. But yeah, just not amazing. Again, it still explores important things like, you know, showing this tiny little town getting hurt by this factory, and the factory is part of the war machine. It's making weapons. And yeah. Okay, I hope you guys are ready for this. We got Sokka's master. Booyah! Booyah! This is a great episode. Finally, Sokka gets an episode. I love how just because he's a non-bender, you have to see that he is still valuable. He's still a valuable member of the crew. And we get to meet Pandao, who is probably my favorite White Lotus member of White Lotus Masters. Maybe Boomy, but Pandao is great. And out of his out of the box training methods are super interesting, and we see how the absence of like Zuko affects the crew, or Sokka. Zuko, who's Zuko? Zaka, Zuko, Sokka affects the crew. Like they can't do anything because Sokka does it all. And also we get to see like all this leads to the epic space sword and the cool fight between Sokka and Pandao. I do love that fight, and because it at first glance it looks like Pandao is like literally attacking him, but it's really his final lesson, and Sokka like, you know, is using all the lessons, like using his surroundings against Pandao and things like that. And it really shows us how much he picked up. And the one day, I wish I could hang out for one day and then become a swords master. Would that be great? And in the meantime, Iroh is working out and getting jacked in his cell. So that's something we get. Buff Iroh. Buff Iroh? Oh, it doesn't work. Byro? No, sorry. I'll try to make it work. 7.5 out of 10. It would be a like a mid A tier. It's a good episode, man. Good episode, A tier. All right. I love this episode. So coming up, we have 45. So book 3, episode 5, we have The Beach. Oh my God. It reminds me so much of Tales of Ba Sing Se because it is like complete filler. But it spends its time giving us awesome character moments. And who knew that we need an entire episode of Zuko hanging out with the mean girls on a beach would be so dang entertaining. And it is gut-busting funny, honestly. This is one of the funnier episodes. And how can I forget? It's also the introduction to Combustion Man, or Sparky Boob Man, whatever you want to call him. And the absolute terrifying unit of a firebender that is Combustion Man gives us the first taste of his combustion bending. This episode's great. So not only do we get Combustion Man, but Azula is so good in it, and she's got really great comedy moments, like when she's telling the guy that they're gonna like rule the beach and be the most powerful couple on the beach. All the stuff of like Ty Lee just letting like simps stand in front of the sun and stuff, and there's a lot of really cool moments. The volleyball and everything comes up on flame, or goes up in flame. It's cool. And then of course we have the scene around the fire where they all talk about what is wrong with them, and Azula is the only one like, well, I'm perfect, you guys are all psychos. It's a good episode, and it's one of my favorites. And that doesn't mean I'm giving it an uber high rating, but it's not bad. I would give it, A tier. I'll give it 7.5 out of 10. Good stuff. So that was the beach. Wow, is that this episode already? We're this far. We got episode 6 of book 3, Avatar and the Fire Lord. Holy crap. I love this episode. So like what I said before with the episode The Storm, we get this parallel backstory of Aang and Zuko, but we get this backstory for them, but not of them. Like, we're learning more about Aang and Zuko, but we're doing it by learning about their ancestors and their past lives. And this episode's so good. So it's a parallel backstory. We've done it before, but we've never seen it like this. This is the best version of that. And we're learning more about Roku and who Sozin was and how Zuko is connected to both. And this represents his duality that is constantly fighting inside him. Like, the fact that he is part Avatar and part, Fire Lord. And that's why he has that constant fight inside him. Honestly, the first time I've seen this episode and I saw the duality inside Zuko represented by his ancestors like this, my mind was blown. And I still think it's mind-blowing. I love this episode. I think it's one of the best in the series, and it is S tier. It is definitely 9 out of 10. It's a banger. It's a banger of an episode. Yeah. I mean, I'm really curious of how you guys feel about these episodes, if I'm just being crazy on the ones that I just think are so good. But I mean, I'm looking at a lot of writing and everything, and that episode's just written so well. Yeah, I love Avatar and the Fire Lord. And now let's go. She's a little runaway. All right. Fine. It's a fine episode. It's probably the most filling of all the filler episodes of season 3, but it's fun. We get hockey and Toph scamming, and then we get sweat bending and even more Combustion Man, and he actually gets named Combustion Man instead of Spark and Boom Man in this episode. But the Katara being a mom stuff to Toph, again, we've seen it before, and it gets old. And it's a fun episode. But compared to the rest of season 3, it like really barely stands out. Like, among season 3, it's fine. I'd put it in like C tier. It's a 4 out of 10. And yeah, again, not bad. No episodes are bad. But here we go. The Puppet Master. Let's get this out of the way. Hana is creepy. Hana is a creepy character. And bloodbending itself is also super creepy. And I like how this episode plays on Fire Nation townfolk are being the victims to a waterbender, right? Like, it's the opposite of what we are taught at the beginning, that waterbender good, Fire Nation bad. But right now, it's literally the Fire Nation of this town, and the Fire Nation is being terrorized by a waterbender. And Hana starts off as a sympathetic character, but you do quickly see how she isn't just a victim, or she's not really, like, she isn't just a victim. So she learns bloodbending and uses it to break out of jail, but doesn't break anybody else out of jail, right? Like, think about that. Like, she unearths this amazing power and just walks out all freaking crazy and doesn't let anybody else out, doesn't help her people. And then after she breaks out of jail, she doesn't go home. She stays in the Fire Nation to terrorize the town. She's a super powerful bender. Wouldn't it make sense if she like went back to the water, like South Pole, and help people? But no, she instead hangs out on a mountain and terrorizes a town. She's a villain. And yeah, so she is a good teacher for Katara just because we need somebody this later on in the show to show us such a crazy power like bloodbending. And it's cool that Katara gets to pick that up. But even though she's super powerful and she gets to teach Katara, she's still nuttier than rat turds. And yeah, so I don't dislike this episode. Again, it doesn't stand out in book 3, just like the Runaway compared to a lot of other episodes of this season. It's kind of lower, but I do like this episode, and Hana is creepy. She's creepy, dude. She's just creepy. All right, we get Nightmares and Dreamscapes. This episode is so this episode explores all the stress that's going on in Aang's head and all the weight on his shoulders the day before the invasion of the Fire Nation, or the days leading up to the invasion. The dreams are a mix of nightmare fuel and just like goofy comedy. It doesn't all work, but many of it does. I do kind of love this episode. And also we have Zuko dealing with the pressure of being on his father's right hand, and he doesn't know, how there's a lot of pressure of finally trying to live up to that expectations that he's wanted his whole life. Like, he's fought to be loved by his dad, and when he finally has it, he doesn't know what to do. So it's because it's filler, and it's more of a goofy episode. I'm gonna give it 5 out of 10. Again, don't dislike it. Still, I'd consider it B tier. It's really good. All right, let's get to the mid-season finales. Right? So it's finally getting to the Days of Black Sun. And the Day of Black Sun, Part 1, The Invasion, is... Man, this episode. First time I watched this episode, it felt like a finale, right? And this feels like the first episode of finale. But it's only the halfway point of this season. And it starts off bringing a bunch of old friends, right? We get to see the swap benders again, the earth-bending wrestlers, the boulder, and the hippo. Also, old favorites, all in one place. It's very much a delight. I love this setup of all these like characters that we met before, all kind of teaming up. And Sokka's failed speech is hilarious. And Aang and Katara's kiss is a nice combination of awkward and sweet, but definitely awkward. And this episode shines in the invasion itself. The action is dynamic, and with all the different diverse bending styles and military tactics, and the gut punch that the Fire Lord knew ahead of time and abandoned his palace is like a perfect ender to it. I like this episode a lot. I love the action. All around, it's a 8 out of 10. I'd put it in A tier. I think it's great. And we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Sorry, you're so sick of my voice. So we got Day of Black Sun, Part 2, The Eclipse. If the last episode felt like set up for a finale, this totally feels like a finale. Azula fighting the crew is amazing. But the highlight is Zuko confronting his father. That's why I have this slide up of the first time you see him redirect lightning, and it's so powerful. Zuko using the eclipse to question his father about his mother. Holy crap. And his father dangling knowledge of his mother to keep him in the room. No, yeah, so he doesn't even go there to confront them about his mom. He goes there to be like, hey, bye, I'm leaving you. And then his father's like, well, why don't you stay until, the eclipse is back so I can just straight up shoot my son with lightning. And Zuko's like, I'm not that dumb. I'm doing this during the eclipse, so you can't shoot lightning at me. Bye. And he's like, well, don't you want to learn about your mother? And Zuko's like, fine, shoot lightning at me, whatever. Yeah, so we finally do get to see Ozai's power, and it lives up to the hype. It's a defeat that subverts the expectations for sure, and that's why this isn't the season finale, because we do need to see more failure. And this episode is ultimately failure. Like, their whole army ends up taken by the Fire Nation at the end of this, and they don't get to not kill, but defeat the Fire Lord like what they're planning on. But yeah, it's good, man. 8 out of 10. I love this episode. It's a good one, and I finally feel like we're on the home stretch though, because after this is when we finally those last couple episodes, and it's all gravy train from here. Because we got Western Air Temple. Hi, Zuko here. The design for the Western Air Temple is my favorite air temple for sure, because it's like the one that's underneath the ground. This episode shows Aang feeling like he failed, which he did, and trying to ignore his responsibilities. So he's just like, no, whatever, let's play with marbles again. And he like kind of subverts to how he was in episode, like in the early episodes of season 1. Zuko approaching the team is a highlight of the entire show. And it's something to show, like, something the show has been building up to for its entirety, and it totally pulls it off. The fight with Combustion Man is a highlight, and it ends up with literally him combusting. He's combusting, man. It's pretty good. And I also like how Zuko just tells him, like, hey, it's Combustion Man. And he's like, well, that's not his name, but he still doesn't say his name. We never learned the name. It's 7.5 out of 10. It's great. It's A tier. It's mid A tier. Love this episode. It's good. It's good. All right. Then after that, yeah, I love Western Air Temple, and I like that we finally have Zuko part of the fold, right? He's finally joined them. And here we go with the Firebending Masters. Okay. The idea of the original culture based on firebending is a sun-worshipping Aztec-like kingdom is super neat. That's so cool that it's like this Aztec, Mayan, sun-worshipping pyramid guys are the first firebenders. That's awesome. And I like how well Aang and Zuko fit into this, like, buddy cop episode, like the Indiana Jones style opener when they're like going through this these like ruins and stuff. It's great. And the dragons judge them is also, I'm just gonna keep saying it's great. This whole thing's great. It is, though. The dragons judging them and showing Zuko where his fire should come from is amazing. This episode does have some flaws I don't like, but it is absolutely a solid episode, and I got nothing but love. Nothing but love, baby. Nothing but love. Firebending Masters, great episode. And we also get that like reveal of that Iroh didn't kill the last dragons, that he just hung out with them. That's what he did, right? He just like hung out with them, and then he's like, whatever, I killed him. Don't worry about it. The Dragon to the West. Boiling Rock Part 1. I don't have a lot written for this because, believe it or not a lot really happens in this episode. So, I mean, it's great that Zuko and Sokka team up and all that stuff. And it's very decent, and it's a good prison episode, and no, it doesn't try anything profound or anything, but I like Sokka and Zuko have a really good chemistry together, and again, this is setup, and it's maybe not as amazing of setup as what we get later on or earlier on. But it's fine. Solid episode. 5 out of 10. There you go. See? Put it on the screen. It's on the corner. I wrote it on the paper. And you get a Boiling Rock Part 1. What's next? Boiling Rock Part 2. And 2 words. Prison riot. Riot. All right, 2 more words. Gondola fight. We get a gondola fight, guys. Did you ever realize how much you wanted a gondola fight in your life? Gondola fight. That is what this episode has going for it. It's amazing action. Prison riot, gondola fights, dogs and cats living together. Everyone has a chance to shine. The Suki's awesome in this episode, and it ends with the Mean Girls breaking up and seriously weakening Azula as a threat. And all right, so I'm gonna butcher her name because I butcher names. Gray DeLizzy? Gray DeLizzy. All right, sorry, but the the voice actress for or voice performer for Azula is so good in here, and it's another one like what I was saying earlier with Mako with Iroh, is the voice acting kind of really does push this episode up for me a little more. And she is always great, but she is so great when Mai tells her that she miscalculated, and she goes, "You miscalculated. You should have feared me more. I can't do it, but you're so good." I love the voice. All the voice performances in the show are so good, but I got to point out the ones that really get me. Yeah, 7 out of 10. It's a good episode. Solid episode. And we're getting so close, man. We are in the home stretch. Yeah, we're home stretch. All right, so that was Boiling Rock Part 1. So let's get to Southern Raiders. So yeah, you know, if Sokka and Zuko get a hangout episode, and then Aang and Zuko got the Dance of the Dragons episode. It's a Game of Thrones reference. Then of course we get a Katara Zuko episode. Yeah, I agree with Toph that her never getting a Zuko episode is super lame. Like, for real. Give me, like, make a Zuko Toph episode. But anyways, we explored the difference between revenge and justice, which is a really cool theme for this episode. And we also get to see some bloodbending, but ultimately Katara chooses mercy and forgiveness and forgives Zuko. It's a killer episode, man. A tier, like this is another example of, like, if one of you guys have this in your top 10, I'm not going to fight against you. But I got 7.5 for it. It's a good episode. It's good. Yeah. And we got the Amber Allen players. I don't know if this is controversial. Okay. Can I just say S tier and end it here? Like, for real, though. This is the best recap episode of any show. Okay, it mocks itself. It brings us up to speed. It delivers us some good character moments, all at the same time. The best moments are John DiMaggio, the voice of Bender, as the buff male Toph. That's why I had to do this picture. Got a good look at you there. And then the Zuko hair jokes and Sokka giving notes to his own voice actor, the audience yawning during the drill episode. It ends with Aang and Katara finally talking about their feelings for each other. Lastly, there's a very powerful moment when in the play the Fire Lord kills Aang and the entire crowd cheers. It's so terrifying because you kind of tend to forget that they're in the Fire Nation. And then you see the Fire Lord and the play kill Aang, and they all start cheering, and you're like, oh, man. Yeah, S tier. It's so crazy that a recap episode is S tier. But, again, let me know if this is controversial. 9 out of 10. Let me know. If you're like, Ember Island players, I skipped that one. It's a recap episode. Wow. I'm going to be amazed if somebody feels that way, but I want to know. Am I off the mark on this? Off my rocker, off the taco. I'm off the taco on this one, guys. Going off the taco. All right, we got the Phoenix King, the Melon Lord. So we have. I went back and forth if I should do all 4 episodes all at once because that's how it was originally aired. I decided no. I do want to look at all these episodes on their own, and that's what I did, and kind of judge them individually. And yeah, so if you disagree, tell me in the comments. If you're wondering where I would rank all of these guys at once, whatever, I'll tell you at the end. There, how's that? There, shut up. Yeah, so the Phoenix King is the name of this episode. This episode starts strong with Aang trying to hold off fighting Ozai until after the comet, but Zuko tells him that he plans to set the entire planet on fire. So Aang's like, so I can't skip this one out. No, he's gonna kill us all, bro. So Aang struggles hard with the weight on his shoulders again, and we see how with how to end this without actually killing the Fire Lord. So he is a pacifist, and Aang is ultimately a very good character, and he tries to be and we have to figure out how to kill the Fire Lord or stop the Fire Lord without killing him. And it's like a really big, important part. And that's what this episode's kind of about. And also we get to see the tiny little baby picture of Ozai, which just to like nail home that even he was once innocent. And it ends with Aang on the Lion Turtle and the crew meeting up with June from season 1 because everybody wants June to come back. And yeah, I'm gonna rate this episode kind of low. I mean, it's B tier, so like mid B tier, so it would be like 5.5 out of 10. And again, that's probably why I wanted to rate these guys separately, because a lot of the a couple of these are not as good, and I think that it would kind of bring down all 4 of them if I put them all together, if that makes sense. Because this episode's a lot of setup. And it's good. I like setup. I've been trying really hard not to talk crap about setup. Setup's important, okay? The rebounds. Or not rebounds. Assists, right? In basketball, that's a basketball thing, right? Assists. They're important. All right, now we got the Old Masters. This episode is perfectly named because not only do we meet all of the old White Lotus Masters again, but Aang speaks to all of his past avatars, and Aang trying to find a way to fight Ozai without violence. It's awesome. Zuko's reunion with Iroh is super touching. We also learn Iroh is planning on retaking Ba Sing Se for the Fire Nation. I almost teared up in the middle of me talking. Let me take this slide down. Like, no, thinking about, I like blew past it, but the Iroh and Zuko like reunion when Zuko knows he's messed up and he like comes up all sympathetic, but Iroh just immediately hugs him because he doesn't care. Oh, okay, moving on. I promised myself I would cry. Party on. All right. All right. This episode ends with End meeting the Lion Turtle and getting a power from it, which we don't learn what the power is right away, but it's a spirit bending. And now after 2 great episodes of setup, we have to end the show now. All right, let's end it. Let's end this dumb universe. It's amazing. 8 out of 10, right? I love it. I when it comes to setup, everything ducks are now in a row, and let's bring it home. And the next episodes bring it home, man. Got part 3 Into the Inferno. Perfect name for this episode. The old geezers start to take back Ba Sing Se in spectacular fashion, with Zhang Zhang and Iroh using the power of the comet. I can't say comet to easily take back the city. It's in great contrast of Ozai using the same power at the same time to destroy the Earth Kingdom. You see those 2 guys taking back the capital for the Earth Kingdom. Sokka, Toph, and Suki take over the airship and support Aang with an airship. The airship slice! And Aang and Ozai start to stand off with each other. Meanwhile, as all that is going on, Azula is going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and she starts banishing everyone and like yelling at her ghost mom. All right, I'm not sure where I was, but I lost internet there, but here I'm back. Let's finish this off. So we have Azula acting all cuckoo pants, and she starts banishing everybody, and she starts arguing with her ghost mom, and she cuts her hair all crazy weird. And yeah, I love Crazy Azula. And you see her descent into madness is steep. Like, as soon as she gets told that she gets the throne, she starts to just lose herself. And she's about to have her coronation, and Zuko and Katara freaking crash it. Both of the main fights start in an amazing way. So the Azula versus Zuko fight is great, and then we get the Ozai and Aang starting at the exact same time. This episode ends like, oh, by the way, the Zuko and Azula starting with like the big plumes of red and blue at the same time. Whew, so cool. And it ends with Ozai having the upper hand over Aang and Azula having the upper hand. And yeah, Are you kidding me? This is S tier, 100% S tier, and it's 9.5 out of 10. And yeah, no, let's do it. I love this episode. I think it almost goes right into episode 61, and like they're almost seamless. So I can see I can see the argument of people considering all 4 episodes the same. But I don't know. I didn't do it that way. If you do it that way, that's fine. I didn't. Okay, here we are, the finale. Finally, you guys are almost done of hearing my voice. Almost. Still got my top 10. Okay, so we got Substance Comment Part 4, Avatar Aang. This episode picks off right the way it was, seamlessly. We flip between all 4 scenes, with the geezers taking out, retaking Ba Sing Se, with Toph, Sokka, and Suki on the airships, and Zuko, Katara fighting Zula, and with with Aang and Ozai. The tides change when Aang gets his chakras hit and can finally enter the Avatar state. Highlights are when Katara stops Azula when she is a split second away from getting her head blown off with lightning, and she like brings that water up and stops him. It's one of my favorite moments of the entire show. And then seeing Azula like shackled, and she's like screaming and she's losing her mind and sobbing at the same time as she's like blowing blue fire. It is so powerful to see such a great character just fully break like that. Also seeing how Aang takes his bending away instead of killing him is super cool. So we learn that the lion turtle taught him spirit bending. So he then, he shows mercy on Ozai without killing him. So he takes away his bending, and we learn how Ozai was just straight up nothing without his bending. Zuko, Zuko gets my favorite ending, with him becoming Fire Lord and then wanting to rule in peace and changing the regime. And I love how the show ultimately ends with this adorable moment of all of them hanging out in the tea shop and everyone being happy. You know how I'm rating this. It's 10 out of 10. I'm sorry if I'm a cliche, but the cliches are there for a reason. And this episode is one of my favorite series finales of all time. And I wholeheartedly love that episode. Okay. I've been talking for a long time. So let's do my top 10 after all that. So, I hope everybody likes it. Please put your top 10s in the comments, and let's do it. So my number 10 is The Storm, for all the way back in season 1. I love this episode. Again, it's like the first time we get backstory for Aang and Zuko. It's really cool. It's a good episode, and I love that parallel backstory stuff, like I said before. And then we have episode 9. Yeah, here we go. Or not. Yeah. Then my number 9 is Waterbending Scroll. Again, I don't know. I'm curious how everybody feels about this episode, but really in rewatching it, it's so freaking good, man. I love this episode, Waterbending Scroll. I really want to know where it ranks for everybody else. So that's my 9. My 8, you know it. You know I'm going to bring it up because of Mako's amazing voice acting, just everything else that's going on in it, is Lake Lao Guy. I love this episode. It's my number 8 of the series. There's just so much going for it. And And then next is, again, when I was talking about the parallel backstories, and this is the one from season 3. This is Avatar and the Fire Lord. This episode seriously blew my mind when I first saw it. I think this episode's great. And that's why it's my number 7 out of the series. And my number 6 is Ember Island Players. I'm sorry, man. This is another one. I'm curious of where this ranks for everybody, but I do think it's the best recap show of all television. It's just so freaking good, and it fires on all cylinders. And yeah, Ember Island Players, my 6. Here we're getting somewhere now. So I'm glad we split the finale into its 4 parts because for number 5, I have Sozin's Comet Part 3, Into the Inferno, for all the reasons I just stated a couple minutes ago. It's so good. And it just as well as shooting that lightning. Woo! And then for my number 4, we have The Siege of the North Part 2, the season finale for season 1, just really showing us how good these episodes can get, and showing us how they can end a seasons on such high notes. And yeah, of course, I have all the season finales in here. But before I get to other season finales, we're going to talk about my number 3, and it's got to be The Blind Bandit. I will not hide how much I love The Blind Bandit. I think it's definitely the 3rd in the entire series. It's up there with the season finales. Oh my God. Everything about it, top introduction down to just all of it, the comedy, I love this episode. It fires on all cylinders. Number 2, of course, we have Crossroads of Destiny, my season 2. I fought between my number 1 and my number 2 a bunch on this, two very different episodes, but I decided to go Crossroads of Destiny as my number 2. And yeah, it was a very hard decision, honestly. But yeah, I'm putting it my number 2, and I'm putting Avatar Aang as my number 1. So the series finale is my number 1, and it was hard to make that choice. So Crossroads of Destiny I like because, I mean, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars. I love things that end on a down note like that. But the spirit bending is probably what pushed this, over for me. Is seeing how Aang finds a way to remove Zuko's bending and find a way to peacefully resolve this carnage is so cool. And that's probably what moves it just slightly over. I mean, I gave both of them 10 out of 10s, and I stand by that. So, yeah, guys, we made it all the way through. Only a few hiccups. Thanks for watching. I am a brand new channel, and I have a lot of stuff here. I do a podcast with a Star Wars podcast with an amazing co-host, Marie Wilson. And also, I've been doing these Geek Gauntlets. So if you haven't checked them out, watch them. It's where I pin a bunch of different characters against each other. And this is my first big major video like this. And I'm hoping to get, more out. Hopefully like one of these a month or more. We'll see. I've been extremely busy. And I'm so glad to finally get this done. And I hope you guys liked it. So please click like. Please subscribe. Anything. I'll take anything I can get because, like I just said, I'm this channel is brand new. I've only been going a little bit. We only have a couple episodes on it, or a couple videos on it. So please, check out everything else I got going on. And if you made it the full 2 hours, you're the best. Thank you. And yeah, Avatar: Last Airbender. Be water, my friends, and may the Force be with you.